Okay, today I'm going to be reading Aliens Ate My Homework, Chapter 10. I don't have any questions written for this chapter because it's more of a reflection about predictions that you have made leading up to this chapter. And so while I read through this chapter, think about your predictions that you made about BKR and the aliens and what they're trying to accomplish. Who is the real BKR? Why is BKR on Earth? And we're going to look for evidence to confirm your predictions or to revise your predictions. So chapter 10, the real enemy. Hanging in the closet, staring at us with sightless eyes, were Mr. and Mrs. Becker. "Oh my gosh," I cried. "He killed them. Billy Becker killed his parents." "Don't be silly," said Gracker. "Those aren't real people." "They sure look real," I said, backing away from the closet. "They're just androids," said Madame Pong soothingly. She was clinging to my ear so that my violent trembling wouldn't throw her to the floor. "At least you would call them androids at this stage of your planet's development. The technology is actually a little more advanced than that, but the idea is close enough." "But that's Mr. Becker. I've met him before." "No, that is an android that has been out in public using the name Mr. Becker." "Why would BKR have an android of himself?" I said. "I don't get it." And that's what he found in the closet, the androids. So they're just like a robot, a suit. So he's like, why would he have an android of himself? I don't get it. "I think I do," said Snout. "We've been on the wrong path all this time. Mr. Becker is not our quarry. His son is." "You mean Billy Becker is an alien criminal?" I cried. "That would seem to be the logical conclusion," said Madame Pong. "Can you believe it? My archenemy, the rotten, lying little creep, was no mere kid. He was a fugitive mastermind from another planet, wanted across the galaxy for his hideous crimes. That should tell you something about my life. Most kids get bullied at some point or another, but how many sixth graders get bullied by a kid who turns out to be a criminal genius from the stars in disguise?" "But why?" I asked. "I don't get it." "I have a theory," said Madame Pong. "Let's hear it," said Gracker gruffly. I got the feeling he didn't like this discovery any more than I did. "Well, as near as we can make out, children are close to invisible in this culture. If BKR had come to Earth and established himself as a rich adult with a lot of power, it would have been easy for us to track him down. But simply by appearing to be a child, he was more likely to stay undetected. I would guess that he has been doing this over and over in different places for the last 12 years. Snout put one of his spindly fingers beside his long nose and said, "That makes sense. It could also have to do with his stat." "Divulging classified information is a crime," said Gracker fiercely. "What was he going to say?" I cried. "It's classified," repeated Gracker. "We can't tell you." "Look, if you can drag me away from school to help you with this mission, I think the least you can do is take me into your confidence." What was he going to say? Gracker folded his arms, shook his green gorilla head from side to side and said, "Classified is classified." "All right, have it your way," I snapped. "We don't have to argue. We have to get out of here." "Why?" asked Madame Pong. "What if Billy, BKR, whoever, comes back? We don't want him to catch us here." "He'll be in school all day, won't he?" said Gracker. "I suppose so," I said uneasily. "Then we must take advantage of this time to examine the house. We may find information that will be useful in capturing him, or that can be used against him when he goes on trial again." "I thought he was already convicted," I said. "He is," said Madame Pong. "Gracker would like to go for the maximum punishment." "What's that?" I asked. "We make him stay on Earth," said Snout. "What?" Just joking," he said, tweaking the end of his nose so that it bounced up and down. Aliens, who could figure their sense of humor? After half an hour of carrying the aliens around, I returned to the living room. Sitting on the floor, I put the aliens on the coffee table so we could look at each other as we talked. The first thing I said was, "This place is so normal. It's almost suspicious." "What do you mean?" asked Madame Pong. "It's like a magazine version of a real home," I explained. "Too neat and perfect to be real. Almost everyone has some little quirks that make them interesting. You know, they make pot holders out of roadkill, or decorate lampshades with pictures of Elvis, or something. At least, that was what my dad used to say." I paused at a stab of pain as a stab of pain shot through my heart. I tried to let the moment go by, but it was as if something had been let loose in the room. "Where is your father, Rod?" asked Madame Pong. "That's classified information," I snapped, sounding ruder than I intended. She nodded and didn't pursue the question, which I appreciated. Cracker looked puzzled, as if he didn't understand what was going on, but Snout looked away. His nose drooped. "Well, we must be missing something," said Madame Pong. "BKR would not be here without items he could use in case of emergency. They must be hidden somewhere." "A cross-dimensional closet?" suggested Snout. "What's that?" I asked. "A storage device," said Cracker. "It's an opening into another dimension, lined with strong, stretchable material that can expand with the amount of stuff you put in it. Sort of an unbreakable interdimensional balloon," added Snout. "I could use one of those," I said. My own closet was so full of junk that my mother claimed the door should only be opened by trained professionals. "They're very handy," agreed Madame Pong, "but also a great luxury. They take an enormous amount of energy to maintain. BKR can afford that expense," said Cracker. "He is, after all, fabulously wealthy." "From stealing stuff?" My dog. I lost the spot. My dog's running around here right now. "Is he wealthy from stealing stuff?" "BKR can afford the expense," said Greg. "Oh, he doesn't steal things," said Madame Pong. "He was born rich." "But I thought he was a criminal." "There are far worse crimes than stealing," said Cracker darkly. "Anyway, BKR certainly has enough energy credits to maintain a cross-dimensional closet." "Energy credits?" I asked, trying desperately not to get lost in this conversation. "Energy is our basic unit of exchange," said Snout. "Makes more sense than gold," added Cracker with a sneer. "Not much you can do with gold once you've got it." "I'll do an energy check," said Snout before I could ask any more about their monetary system, which was just as well, I guess, since I didn't want to stay in BKR's house any longer than necessary. The purple alien removed a small device covered with loops of wire from his cloak. Still standing on the coffee table, he began to turn in a small circle. He was about 3/4 of the way around when the device began to beep. "Flipping!" he exclaimed, which I decided must be like shouting bingo or eureka in our language. "Take us that way, Rod." I extended my arm so the three of them could climb onto my shoulder, then began to walk in the direction Snout had indicated. He kept adjusting his little machine as I walked, sending me right or left as if we were playing a game of hot and cold. We stopped in front of the TV. "Here?" I asked. "By all appearances," said Snout. "Set us on top of it, please." I did as he asked. "Wait a minute while I make an adjustment," he said, tinkering with the box he had been holding. "All right, now run this around the edge of the screen." I took the box from his hands. It was no bigger than a blueberry. Holding it delicately between my fingertips, I did as he had directed. "Good. Now see if you can pry off the screen." I put the little box on top of the television, then hooked my fingernails over the edge of the glass. It tipped forward so easily, it caught me off guard. I tried to catch it, but it slipped through my fingers and fell to the floor. Rod the Clod strikes again. To my relief, it didn't break. Then I realized it probably wasn't actually glass, but some alien material that wouldn't break even if a rhino started tap dancing on it. "Excellent," said Cracker. "Let's see what he has put in here. Shoulder, please." I put my hand on the top of the TV and let them walk onto my shoulder. When all three of them were safely in place, I bent forward and put my head through the hole. I felt like I was getting a shock from a small battery. Not strong enough to really hurt, but definitely weird. I shouted in surprise. "What's the matter, Rod?" asked Madame Pong. "It tingles." "Of course it tingles," said Cracker impatiently. "Your head is in one dimension while the rest of your body is in another." "Is that dangerous?" I asked. "What about my blood? Is it flowing in and out of my regular dimension?" "Probably," said Snout. "It's very profound when you think about it, almost metaphysical." "Can we skip the philosophy and get this over with?" I asked. "I don't know how much more of this I can take." "Hold on while I get some light here," said Cracker. So there I was, my rear end waving around in an alien criminal's living room, my head in another dimension, when a familiar voice cried, "Why, it's Rod Albright. I know that pudgy hiney anywhere." Billy was home. I tried to back out of the TV, but before I could get started, someone gave me a solid push. I hurtled through the television, out of this world, and into the cross-dimensional closet. So tomorrow will be chapter 11, the storage dimension. So we have been making predictions about where is Rod's dad? We still don't have the answers. And then who is BKR? So we now have that answer that Billy, the bully, is the alien criminal that's been on Earth hiding as a kid. And so now next, think about, why is he on Earth? Why is he a criminal? And what kind